Welcome to Salute and Biohacking podcast. My name is Vanessa Bertinotti and my mission is to build a tribe that shares my same passion for health optimization and biohacking by bringing to the table experts and people who inspire me. All the information contained in this podcast is purely informative and does not replace medical or therapeutic consultancy. On this episode, I'm super excited to welcome Alvydas Petruskevicius, Doctor of Medicine, specialized in pharmacology, immunology, microbiology, oncology, and neurophysiology. He is one of the developers of the technology to produce the product called EnergyUpBiotics. I recommend the product EnergyUpBiotics because after using it daily for more than 4 months, my gut health significantly improved, and now I'm no longer sensitive to gluten, and I can eat any food without bloating. I'm really excited to see if this product can help other people like me regenerate their microbiome. That's why I decided to do an episode with Dr. Alvydas Petruskevicius. For the listener of my podcast, I have a discount code. So just head on the link in the show notes of this episode if you want to give it a try. Alvydas, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting, first of all, and for opportunity to share the information.
Great. So I'm thrilled to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
So let's say my intention, first of all, it was to share the information which is related to vital questions of humanity and each of us, and which is related to the subject which is becoming now the most important, I think so, worldwide and globally. It's about the microbiome.
Yeah. So before we dive into today's topic, can you tell us about your journey and what is your mission today?
So I don't like to talk about myself too much because I'm not the most important here. The most important is the, the information, what I would like that the listeners would receive and that they could access to it and do the homework, searching on internet and collecting more information about this subject. So my journey started very simple, as many doctors. I worked in the beginning as a doctor, but in some stage, I decided to switch into more, at that time, more scientific world, which was related to pharmacology and pharmaceutical industry, later to diagnostic industry. And so for all this, what I was doing, it was needed, to collect much more knowledges in pharmacology, in immunology, in microbiology, oncology, neurology, and so on and so on. Otherwise saying, you should become, the specialist about everything what is related to what we could describe the health.
Great. And what's your definition of health, actually? Because, many people have different definition. I'm curious about yours.
So even in this point, I have some unusual one, if to talk especially about medical society. So first of all, I would say it's a positive mind, positive thinking, and positive life. That's the 3 dimensions which is the most important, for your success, for your efficiency, and for your satisfaction in your life. And all these factors at the end is something what we could call a health. I mean, not only physical health, but the mental as well.
Yeah, great. And why everybody should become the expert of their own health?
Very interesting question. The answer would be very simple. Who else can take care about yourself? Yes. Who else? And on the other hand, if you take responsibility for your health and for yourself to someone else, are you sure that the other one can take care about you and your health better than you yourself? And at the end, your body and what you are, that's what you are. So that's the most important part what you have. So how can you give away this responsibility to someone else.
Yeah, that's for also the meaning of being a biohacker. The movement is like taking our own responsibility and then maybe continue to be curious and look for an answer, you know. And why the microbiome is the master of our health? What is the relationship between the microbiome and our health and quality of life?
Yeah, so answering to this question, first of all, that we are talking about really huge thematic because it's a core, it's a root of what we are, of our life, of our health, and at all our existence. I would answer to this question with the question, let's say, who was the first in development? Was it our body or was it bacteria, bacteroids, fungi, and so on? So that's the first question. Who's the older one? And then, let's say, based on that, it would be the answer. Let's say, if they are the older ones, so they contain all the information from very beginning who we are. And they are the one who are constructing our, at least, physical body, but not only, from our birth till our death. And at the end, let's say, the microbiome is the one which is, let's say, first of all, constructing our body, and at the end, when our life or our scenario is finished, is making our body return to the earth. Otherwise saying, organizing the degradation and return of our atoms to the soil. So that's why it's the most important.
And how the microbiome is connected to our environment, how microorganisms within us create a connection with soil, water, and other living organisms.
Yeah, so I would answer in a way, let's say that first of all, our body, what we believe our body, first of all, it consists from the soil and from the water, a little bit of earth, but finally, let's say when we look in generally, so the body is the soil and the water. The microbiome is something in between. It is in between the soil, water, and our body. So it's detecting, or let's say, making the main reason how, let's say, our body is connected to all the environment around us. Because this environment is, let's say, formatting our body, but not only. With the help of microbiome, of course.
Yeah. And what role does the microbiome play in our physical and mental state?
So that's another one, the very big subject. And I would say, if to talk about the well-being, life, health, humanity, it's the core, it's the main, I would say. Because, let's say, if to talk about when we are born and our body start developing, so who is the one who is formatting, let's say, all the structure, or who is behind the formation? Who is the one who is detecting, let's say, what kind of homeostasis it is in our body liquids? Who detect what the stage of our DNA it is, and what kind of, let's call, programs is inside our DNA activated? So all what we're talking here is about microbiome. Why? Because the microbiome is the one who is living in our body and using our body like a place of living, place for, let's say, multiply and spread. So for them, our body and us as a host is, let's say, like big and important hotel for their life. So, but it's on the other hand, if we would look, let's say,
yeah, and
in
considering
details.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. So if to look into details
Yes.
here, so first of all, let's say the microbiome, we can talk to be more simple, the bacteria of the microbiome. Even it isn't so, because the microbiome is billions of bacteria, it's bacteroids, fungi, and so on. and let's say viruses. So they are actually not only in intestines, they are on our skin and on all these surfaces. They are in constant contact with each surface cell in our body. And what they are doing by communicating, they are not only, let's say, influencing those cells, they are doing exchange. They are collecting information from our cells, first of all, about our DNA stage and, let's say, active programs in the DNA or behind the DNA. And then based on that, they're doing their action, let's say, how to improve our efficiency. I mean, first of all, the efficiency of our cells, tissues, and organs. And of course, the main organ where they start to influence, it is a brain, because the brain, with the help of the, or by the ruling of the microbiome, is doing the regulation of the balance and the homeostasis of all our body structure. But it's not only this, because the microbiome or the bacteria in the gut, they are the one who are the eyes, I could say, vision for the immune system. And as you know, the immune system is the most important structure in the body, which makes our body to work well and survive, or in opposite, to work bad, be ill, and die. So that's, the microbiome is actually ruling all our main systems.
Exactly. And considering the interplay between the brain and the microbiome, which holds more importance in controlling our body. So which one is the responsible for?
Yeah, so I could say so. Yes, of course, for homeostasis regulation and even our brain activity regulation or our mood actually and our mind work. So the brain, yes, that's one of the most important parts. But then we should ask the question, who is ruling the brain? And that's the answer. And this theory which is behind about brain and gut axis, how it is the connection in between them.
Yeah.
Now is developed very seriously on let's say, level of cytology, on the level of the physiology, neurophysiology, and so on. So it's the connection in between them. It's very close. And if you would look even to general structure of the body or physiology, so you would see that the amount of neurons existing in our gut, it is much more higher than in the brain. So where does the brain? It's a good question. So that's the answer. It's, of course, the brain is like our computer, but the computer must be, let's say, regulated by something. So the microbiome is the one who is doing regulation or giving the commands in different way. First of all, it's by sending the, let's call some substances we could call metabolites to the brain by a humoral way, or the other way, it's through, let's call nervus vagus, but it's not only through our neural system communicating directly. So actually, we are talking about complex, system here.
And how does the microbiome affect the stability of our DNA, which in turn control cells function, regeneration, and tissue formation?
Yeah, so here I could answer again to this question. I would answer with the question, if you know, how it's happening that our immune system doesn't recognize the microbiome particles, or let's call at least the bacteria, as something which is from outside. Why? Our immune system tolerate them as their own cells. And the answer would be very simple, because they are, in fact, almost our cells. Why? Because, first of all, they contain all our DNA information. And not only present DNA information, but our historical DNA information. And that's the answer how it works. Because due to constant connection to the, at least, mucosa cells, and constant scanning of our DNA situation, getting information from those cells, but not only, as well from the cells of the immune cells. Let's say the bacteria of microbiome is constantly doing the scanning or comparison the stage of our DNA, present DNA, with the stage of historical DNA. And based on that, they are preparing, let's call information, we could call it informational RNA. And then this RNA, it is sent, let's say, via bloodstream, let's call, to the cells. And it is an information for our cells, how those cells can, let's say, be more efficient, and what is needed to repair in the nucleus, in our DNA, actually active locuses or the program path.
And in the light of the microbiome impact on DNA stability, which is more crucial for our health, the microbiome or our DNA?
So I would say it's again the same situation like with the brain. Yes, DNA, finally, it is the one who is regulating, let's say, action of the cells or the efficiency of our cells and the formatting of the tissues and organs and all the physiology and so on. But on the other hand, let's say, with the information what I said behind, let's say the microbiome, let's call bacteria of the microbiome, not only, they are affecting the stability of our DNA, or otherwise saying, helping to keep, let's say, our DNA free from serious mutations, or otherwise saying, doing our DNA more efficient, or more what we as a humans are. So let's say, based on that, I would say, yes, of course, DNA is essential part of our cells and our structure, but having in mind who is the one who is regulating or ruling this, that's again, we're talking back about the microbiome. So that's the...
Okay. And our well-being, efficiency, and cognitive longevity depend on cellular regeneration, metabolic processes, and DNA integrity. How does the microbiome influence this factor, and what does this imply about its importance for our existence?
Yeah, so here actually we are coming to the very important subject. As I told you from beginning, that our body or the host body for the bacteria or microbiome, let's say it is a place to live, to multiply, to survive, and to spread. Because let's say if the people start to having babies, so the babies are getting the same strains or the same microbiome into their bodies, as you know. So that's the way how to spread.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, let's say in order to have strong and efficient host, which is able to give for the microbiome needed food particles, yes, to find the food and eating to give it for the microbiome. So the host must be, first of all, efficient, yes, not only alive, but efficient in order to get this food, yes, and to be able, what to say, to multiply, otherwise to have the babies. So let's say the microbiome in normal situation, while it is a friendly and free from mutation, they do all the best, taking care about stage, and through DNA and the influence on our brain activity, or let's say homeostasis regulation, they keep our body in best possible situation. So if talking about the cells, so the influence on DNA, giving and stability of DNA, giving the opportunity for the cells to be, let's say, to regenerate and to be in, let's call simple way, in best shape or in best efficiency, be able to, let's say, receive needed food components, and those food components as a metabolites already prepared by the microbiome for the cells, and to use those food particles to construct, let's say, healthy and efficient cell. On the other hand, let's say, to organize the enough high amount of the energy production in mitochondria. So that's, we're talking about the cell. When we are going to the tissues and organs level, so if to take only the brain, for example, yes, so the efficiency, the work of the brain depends fully on what, let's say, food components and in what format the brain cells are receiving. Can they regenerate? Can they be efficient? Let's say, metabolic function in the cells is good enough. So based on that, we are getting the efficiency of our mental capacity and on our mental action. So here we are getting to the situation that the microbiome, based on that, regulate all what we are, especially our body.
Excellent. And given the historical role of the microbiome in supporting human health, how has its function been affected by widespread use of mutagens, such as antibiotics, antibacterial agents, preservatives, disinfectant, and
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned, that all what I'm talking about before and all this good work for support or regulation for our body and efficiency of our body structure, the microbiome is doing with one condition. The microbiome is friendly. Otherwise saying, if the microbiome is free from mutation, or the bacteria in the is free from mutation, but if, let's say, the microbiome and especially the bacteria, let's say, they are affected by the mutagens, what you mentioned, especially the antibiotics, conservating substances, growth hormones, and so on and so on. So actually all this is affecting the cells, what we could call bacteria of the, and then due to this effect, they are becoming not any more friendly. And they are not having any more interest to keep our body in the best function and even to keep our body in a life stage. That's why, let's say, and yeah, the other important factor that they stop communicating to our immune system and giving information to immune system about, let's say, all what's going on actually on our body, inside our body, outside our body, in the environment. So our immune system is becoming blind. As soon as the immune system is becoming blind, is stop doing what they should do. I mean, repairing structure, supervising from, let's say, possible invasion of pathogens and so on. But instead of that, the immune system starts attacking our own cells. And that's we are talking about autoimmune inflammatory processes. So here we are talking what historically happened if we would go at least 100 years back ago. So our microbiome was doing all the best for our body and us as a humans. But due to presence of all those mutagens, first of all, in the food, in the soil, in the water, in the environment, it changed the situation, what our microbiome is doing. And due to this, and having in mind that, let's say, the mother who already actually have got mutated microbiome, at least bacteria, already burn the newborn with this change in the, so the babies grown up with those changes or the mutation of the microbiome has no chance to have a good immune system, good development of the body structure, efficient work of or presence of our cells, and even efficient development of our brain and mind. That's we are talking serious changing of the humans as such. So let's say this influence what happened in the environment influenced, let's say, our possibilities and our stage of.
Is the microbiome still working for us, or has it begun working against us due to this modern pollutant?
Yeah, so latest studies done in different countries by, let's say, different structures shows that 95% of all population globally has mutated microbiome, the level of mutation is different. So let's say more mutation, more serious changes in the microbiome, especially in bacterial level. Let's say more serious changes are going on the physiology, on the structure of the cell, on our DNA. Let's say it means the stability of DNA is lost. The efficiency, the metabolic efficiency of the cell and possibility to regenerate is lost. The efficiency and correct work of our immune system is lost. The brain correct work and let's say stability of the mind or the brain work is lost. So this is something what is happening right now. And if you would look to the statistic, global health and mortality statistic. So what's happened latestly during probably the last 3 years, but we can look even more far, 10 years. So this is very serious because the growth of the mortality and especially in between children and young generation is unbelievable.
And why those mutation in the microbiome considered significant catastrophe, like you are just saying, for humanity, and what can be done to address to these cases and to this issue?
Yeah, so let's say, I would say if to say catastrophe, so it's probably about talking about humanity, but not about the Earth or the planet as such, because the planet will survive without us as a humans, as you know. Let's say that's not a problem at all. So, but the catastrophe is for the human race as such. Because without, let's say, efficient ruling of our microbiome to our body structure, we will not survive. And that's all the situation, that if the humanity will still continue going to the direction where they are now, possibility to survive is zero. And we are not talking about ages for those happenings. We're talking about maybe 10, maybe a little bit more years. Because the changes what is going and happen now in immune system, the level of developments of the immune processes in our bodies, and based on that, all, let's say, huge development of too many diseases, let's say, on the neurology level, immunology level, and actually oncology, it's the growth of this rate is unbelievable. So yes, in fact, if it's nothing will be done, it's a catastrophe for the human race.
And what current technologies exist to restore the microbiome to a beneficial state, and how effective are they?
Yeah, so let's say the technologies, and actually, in between scientific society who are able to understand what's going on in reality and what is the consequences, and latestly used the, let's say, technology of artificial intelligence modeling of the consequences, entering all the data which is present about the change of the microbiome and so on. So it's showing, and that's the, let's say, made the direction that quite many, let's say, leading countries start big investments into, let's say, research and development about the microbiome and how to, let's say, repair it or how to replace it with the microbiome free from mutation. So, of course, as in many technological arenas, the Asia here is leading one. Of course, we do not know too much about what's going on in China, but we know that they are very far away. We only know that Korea and Japan, they are very strong in this arena and they are very far away compared to Europe and even the US. So here we're talking about the technologies that are present. Some of them, they are announced and you can read about them in, let's say, internet. Let's say you can just Google and you will find it. So one of them, which is the oldest one, is transplantation of the microbiome. And transplantation, of course, it is based on taking the, let's say, the microbiome in the format of the poo of the newborn, yes, and then actually using it as, I don't know, adding to some smoothies or whatever. That's, it's even not easy to talk about this because for many other people it looks unethical and logic and so on. So, but that's going on. And especially in the United States, it has a really huge, let's say, popularity. And the clinics and the centers who are doing it, they are growing and they are efficient and they are successful and so on. And the results based on that are quite high. But here we are coming to the situation that let's say, in order to do this replacement or, let's say, change of the microbiome, first of all, you need to have the microbiome free from mutation. Or otherwise saying, at least having the bacteria of the microbiome free from mutation. And here we are coming to the question, what can help here? Of course, let's say the possibility would be just to take the strains of the bacteria which are present in the newborn which is having the microbiome free from mutation. It means that the mother, first of all, or the parents, they're having and society around him is having the, let's say, microbiome free from mutation. So we are talking about the society isolated from the existence of our life and the environment which has already polluted. So based on that, let's say you should take those strains. You need to do cultivation of those strains of bacteria in media or in technology which are free from mutagens again, which is not the case when we're talking about any production of our bacteria of probiotical products right now. You just can go and to see the technology yourself and you will see what is present in the media of cultivation of those probiotics. So then you will understand what I'm talking about. But it's not only about this. Mm-hmm. Even if you are cultivating the bacteria who are already, let's say, free from mutation, let's say you got these strains, you cultivated the bacteria, but then the different question it is, when you are ingesting those bacteria, before they are reaching your gut or your intestines or the mucosa of your intestines, first of all, they need to be in survival stage, or they must be vital and be able to multiply and must be more efficient and more active than the one who are present in your gut or in your intestines already, in order to, let's say, replace with the free from mutation. So here we're talking about the other part, how to make those bacteria not only free from mutation, but more vital, more efficient, and how to make them to survive passing the barrier of the acid in the stomach. So here we're talking again about the technology, which is making those, first of all, bacteria more alive. So in our case, it was the idea, to integrate during the cultivation process, to integrate red Korean ginseng, which is making all the cells, including the bacteria cells, more vital, more efficient. And at the same time, as you know, that red Korean ginseng, let's say, it's one of the most known agent, let's say, and the agent or the substance known at least for 4,000 years already and used, and known as the most safe substance and the most efficient substance for our, let's say, cell DNA stability and cell stability, as a substance the most efficient for regeneration processes. Yes, I'm not talking about that is the substance known the most efficient for recovery of our cognitive functions or the functions of our. And based on that, we are talking that the substance which is leading to the situation of, let's call, cognitive longevity and the efficiency of our not only physical body, but as well as a mind action. So based on that, when you are getting the substance inside the bacteria, and the bacteria are becoming more vital, then the next stage is to make those bacteria in a way, let's say, able to pass the acid barrier of the stomach. So here it's another technology, how to cover those bacteria with something what would be protecting the bacteria from the acid when passing the stomach, and to make them survive and to make them vital when they are entering the intestines. So that was, let's say, taken another natural component. We could call fibroin, or we could call the silk of the silk protein, let's say. So based on that, let's say it is a technology that in certain stage of cultivation, you can make the covering each of those bacteria with the substance. So it makes those like small cocoons around each bacteria, and it makes those bacteria able to survive when passing the stomach acid and to be alive and very efficient and active when entering our intestines. So that's shortly talking, let's say, what could be done and what was done already.
And can taking pills help restore the microbiome, or other intervention necessary to achieve this goal?
Yeah, so now when talking about the pills, even about the tableting. So what I would recommend for anyone who listens to this video and now, just to Google the full composition of the capsule, the shell of the capsule or the tablet, not only the main components, like in let's say the gelatin for the capsules, it says the main component, but nobody is talking about the other components, which what we are talking about is not only conserving the substances, it's, let's say, some substances present in the composition of the shell or the capsule is the one of the most strongest mutagens, especially for our microbiome. So here we're talking about can, let's say, pills or caps help us in this situation. I'm not talking at the moment what is inside those capsules or the tablets. At the moment, I'm talking about the tablets or the capsules itself. So let's say here, of course, the possibility to use some additional natural botanical substances to support our functions. Yes, in some cases, when the functions and the stability of the cells are in really severe conditions, it would be recommended. But again, it should be, let's say, have in mind that it should be supplied in a format which is really acceptable, first of all, for our microbiome and our cells as such.
And does the survival of humanity depend on our ability to manage and restore the microbiome? And if so, how can we take?
Yeah, so I would say it's clearly that the survival is only up to us. And first of all, about the knowledges and understanding what the microbiome it is and the understanding what happened. Because in order to do the action or to act to correct direction, first of all, you need to understand what's going on. So if you at least listen to this video and now have the information, what happened. So the next step, what to do. So first of all, anyone who is listening to this should think about first and main thing, what you put inside yourself. First of all, as a food, as a water, and let's go, as anything else, let's say medicines, how it will affect, first of all, how it will affect your personal microbiome and your stage, how it will affect, let's say, DNA of your bacteria inside your body, how it will affect your DNA of your own cells. And based on that, let's say you can formate your understanding what must be done let's say, to restore the microbiome and to organize the survival of the human race here. So we are talking about that, first of all, the food industry should be changed. Let's say it should be changed in a way that the food should be free from mutagens, at least. The water should be free from mutagens. But what it means that we should introduce different, let's say, standards, first of all, checking of the food, of the production, and understanding. But that's we're talking about, first of all, the new way of education. And that's why I believe that the biohacking community, this is the community who is the one who can do really a big issue here. They are the one who take responsibility for their own health. They are the one who take care about, let's say, their own DNA stage and about the future. So I think that they are the one, the most potential to influence all the other members of the humanity. So I think that in this situation, the role of biohackers here should be exactly this one, to influence the core or essential root factors for our survival or for our health, for our well-being and so on. So, but first of all, everything is starting from right and correct education, knowledges, and information.
Great. And you are one of the developers of the technology to produce the product called EnergyUpBiotics. What are the components of this product and how does it contribute to enhance well-being, regeneration, longevity, and DNA stability?
So let's say the intention and what was done about development of this product and the technology behind. So that's exactly we're talking. First of all, strains of the core or root bacteria from the newborn, which was actually selected, the free from mutation strains. The second one, it was created the technology how to do cultivation, free from mutagens and free from possibility to make the mutations for those bacteria. So it means that we are getting these strains which are something similar to our historical microbiome bacteria strains. And of course, then to make those strains or those bacteria much more vital, I mean, to make them in the fight or in the competition with the existing microbiome much more vital and much more efficient to replace it. So, and at the end, to make them survive when passing our, let's say, the acid barrier of the stomach. But it's actually all together, it's making the opportunity, let's say, to replace our, at least our core strains of the microbiome bacteria and to give the opportunity for the microbiome to, let's say, revive or to become free from mutation. Of course, all this situation is leading to much more bigger picture. Yes, you can do it for yourself, and it works very fast. You feel the effect very fast. Actually, it's not the years. It's actually, we're talking about few months. Even actually during the first week, many of the people feels big difference because actually due to change of the microbiome bacteria, let's say the mucosa of the intestines are regrowing or becoming high enough, let's say, and then the leaky gut symptoms disappear. Let's say this intolerance to many products, which is present in huge part of the population now, disappear. So it's only one part, but on the other hand, let's say you are getting the friendly bacteria who are responsible and taking care about preparing for you the food particles in a right metabolites format, which is getting to your cells and it's acceptable for the cells for formation, for regeneration, and regeneration not only cells but the structure. So here we're talking about complex stage. But of course, first which is reacting, it's the brain. And the brain, as you know, is one of the most important for our, let's say, homeostasis function. So if you regenerate, get back the function of our main computer, the brain, so the possibility to keep homeostasis and to get in the stage of recovery and regeneration is growing up. So here we are talking about, again, complex solution, but again, if you will do alone this, yes, for certain time it works, but if in the environment or in the socium around you, it will be the other players or individuals with the mutated microbiome, so sooner or later you will get back all this unfriendly mutated microbiome and all the consequences related to this. So what we're talking about is, we're talking about, let's say, the massive influence, first of all, on the education of the population and the possibility, let's say, to change or to improve our microbiome with the historical one, which is free from mutation.
Great. I have maybe a few questions because, like in the biohacking world, we are we focus a lot on organic food. And in my case, for example, that I have I was sensitive to gluten. I try to avoid some foods and take, for example, digestive enzyme. And for example, I used to have digestive enzyme to help me break down the food and was okay for me because those helped me but didn't solve the problem with the product. I just saw that it didn't help my symptoms but it regenerate my. And maybe can you talk a little bit about the differences between digestive enzyme and the product you develop, like the technology that produce this product?
Yeah, so when talking about enzymes, so actually it's another, let's say, the components which are known in the pharmacology industry and for the medicine is actually too long time already. And actually they were used for different purposes for the treatment already really long time ago. So we are talking not only about the digestion, but we are talking about, let's say, suppression or regulation of inflammatory processes and so on. But when talking about the enzymes and the bacteria, which could, let's say, give opportunity to replace our microbiome with the free from mutation or the friendly and efficient, we are talking about a little bit different issues because the enzymes, they are the ones who are more about how to cut the food particles into smaller pieces or to digest to a certain level.
Yeah.
But in order for our cells, let's say, to get acceptable components of the food, first of all, that those components of the food must be, let's call, prepared by our bacteria as a metabolites. Because if they are not prepared as a metabolites, so those food particles, like you mentioned gluten, let's say, and especially in a situation if, let's say, we are having mutated microbiome, so as a rule, as a consequence, we have degeneration of the mucosa of intestines, or otherwise saying low mucosa or leaky gut. And what we are getting, that the food particles which are not metabolized by our microbiome bacteria, not prepared in a format needed for our cells, are getting us directly to our bloodstream. And then in our bloodstream, they're creating the situation which is, we could call immune response action, or we could call, let's say, food intoxication. So actually, when talking about gluten intolerance or any kind of food intolerance, we in fact should talk, first of all, about recovery or regrow of our mucosa of intestines, and then recovery of our microbiome and the functions of the bacteria of our microbiome, so that the function of preparation of our food particles till the level of the metabolites acceptable for our cells would be done. And that's again, we are talking about, let's say, this is leading to more far consequences, the stage of the cells, the stage of the DNA, and so on and so on. So yes, I would say enzymes,
and
in
because
severe cases. So just finish that the enzymes in severe cases, before you achieve the replacement of the microbiome into friendly one, it is a solution, but it's only short time. Because if you do it longer time, you will suppress normal production of the enzymes in your body cells.
Okay. Yeah, because another thematic, because on this channel, many health professional, nutritionists are following people with a strong dysbiosis, or they have problematic on the gut health, and they see probiotics or fermented food as not the right solution for example, people who have high histamine, or they in their protocol for them, probiotics in some difficult people that have a really serious disease, probiotic are seen as you don't have to follow this way. So maybe can you also answer to those people that are used, to those professionals that are used to avoid probiotics in those cases, and make them understand what is the difference between normal probiotics? I know that you have explained the background of probiotics, but maybe just to make a better synthesis for this case, because actually I just received a message from a nutritionist right now about high histamine, and they say, is it working, this product for a high histamine? Is that correct to give probiotic and fermented probiotic to a person who has high histamine? So what you would answer to this professional?
Yeah, so I could say, the probiotics, we're talking about what? In fact, we are talking about the bacteria or the strains of bacteria, which is supposed to be the part of our microbiome. But as I told you, in order to achieve the friendly bacteria and the efficiency what normally our microbiome is doing, it's one condition that those bacteria or those particles of the microbiome, let's say what someone called probiotics, let's say, first of all, must be free from mutation. And then it's a question, is it those probiotics, what is recommended and used, they are free from mutation? Is it technology used to cultivate it? Is it free from mutagens? And here it's the answer to you, and actually answer to many of the people who have used the probiotics and didn't got any effect. So that's the answer. If, let's say, the strains in the pill, which is itself already mutagen, let's say, and the strains are already cultivated with the mutagens. So what you are doing, you are not in fact changing the picture. You only increasing the amount of the bacteria in your gut temporarily. So actually you not really changing the influence onto your immune system, and that would be the answer to your question, or the dietitian question about histamine, because in order to change the situation or to improve, first of all, you need to change the situation of your immune system to get it into balance. Otherwise, saying that to get the communication between microbiome and immune system, and to get regrow of your mucosa, at least. So that's the first primary stages what we're talking about. And of course, when talking about the food components or the food what should be used, so my opinion that first of all, we are not talking about the diets. We should talk about the food components free from mutagens. Or otherwise saying, very simply, my understanding about the diet and the food is clean food free from mutagens.
Yeah. Great. And do you have any particular message that you want to spread to our listeners?
Yeah, so my main message, it was of all what I was talking. People, you should take responsibility about not only your health, but about your life, about your well-being, yourself. Nobody else can take care about you, only you yourself. And start it with very simple things. Start your day with positive thinking, with positive mind, with positive look to your life. Collect and analyze all available information, but not advertising, real scientific information and real studies. So then you will get a real picture about what you are and what you can.
Great. So thank you, Alvydas, for your insight and for your wisdom. It was a real pleasure to talk with you today. I will give in the show notes of the podcast a discount code, like a link, just for people who want to give it a try and see if also their situation improve as happened to mine. So thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. See you soon. Have a positive life.